All right, welcome everyone to June's edition of the Wellness Workshop. So, if you're new to these wellness workshops, I always just love to bring a guest into our community to really talk to us about a subject that, I don't always touch on, something completely outside of health and fitness, but I really do believe that, um, you know, wellness is what we are all striving for and what we all want to achieve. Working out, eating healthy, that is just like such a small little piece of this. And when you start to like lean into working on yourself, you just open a whole bunch of other doors. And we've heard from a woman talking on conscious parenting. We've also talked about like creating like a cash flow system and different like financial things. I can't remember what our other call was about. And then, of course, tonight I'm really excited about this conversation with Carla. And she has basically become like a decluttering expert. And what started as just a simple home declutter led her to explore her emotional and mental clutter as well. So she is the co-author of a book that is available right now on Amazon called The Self-Love Club. And I know a lot of the women in my community and a lot of the women on my team have actually gone and gotten this book and have been having rave reviews about it. I read Carla's chapter and it's just so good. So that's like a huge accomplishment to be able to have that title behind your name. So I'm super proud of you, and it's been really fun to
Thank
see
you.
you like on this journey, and it's just really exciting. So I'm just gonna let Carla take over, and she's just gonna dive in.
Sounds good. So I think that decluttering, I think when you first hear about it, you probably think organizing and just purging your house. But for me, decluttering was so much more than that. And when I first started, I had no idea this journey that it was going to take me on and how much it was going to change my life. And it is so true. For me, it was so much a part of that wellness piece because I worked out. I'd worked out for 10 years and I had my nutrition under control, but I just had this anxiety and I had this like overwhelm with life. And I'm self-employed. I run a business with my husband and I have three kids, 15, 11, and 7. She'll be 8 in July. And I had a side business and just trying to keep all of that stuff balanced and then trying to keep your marriage intact. And it just was a lot of balls to keep in the air. And I felt like I was being pulled in every direction. And I know as your kids get older, they get busy with sports. And so there was just a lot going on. And I had a friend once told me, she owns a spa, and she once told me, if you put 100% into something, you'll get 100% out. And if you only put 25% into something, you'll only get 25% out. And it was so true. And that was always going through my head thinking, I'm not giving anything hardly 10% because I've got so many balls in the air and there was just so much going on. And so our relationship, our family dynamic is I work in the office and then I'm also kind of in charge of the house. So keeping the house in order and, cleaning and things like that. And our house was anything but orderly. Like I felt like I was just pulled so much that there was, piles of paper and toys in the corners. And I couldn't even get to the point where I would clean my house because it was like always trying to do the tidy. And I tried a housekeeper for a while or a house cleaner. And honestly, it made me so anxious just trying to get it ready for her to come that I felt more stressed out by that than like trying to keep tackling it myself. So we tried that for probably 6 months or so, and then it just wasn't working. And so I kind of just got to this point in my life where, you're always feeling like you're wanting more, or you're looking on social media and you're thinking somebody else, the grass is greener, or somebody has it better than you, and you're comparing. And it was just becoming this mental weight on me. And I just felt really unhappy. And when I think about it, like I had so much to be grateful for. I have a wonderful family. I have a beautiful house. Our business is successful. And I still just felt really unhappy. And it's sad when I think about it, but I just couldn't find this joy. And I just felt like my life was really not in balance. And I just started craving simplicity. Like, I just remember, like, if all of a sudden I would have a day where things were slower, I would just think, oh, this is what I want. Like, I just want things to slow down. And so what kind of started it for me, I kind of fell into decluttering out of default. We 2 years ago had renovated our kitchen. And so for 5 months, we did a lot of the work ourselves. So it was a long renovation. And we lived in our basement. We made our laundry room into our kitchen. So we actually had our stove hooked up in our kitchen. So we had a full functioning stove, but our laundry room's small. So we only had what was necessary and what we actually needed to actually, cook and serve our meals. And we all ate as a family in our rec room in the basement. And we, which we do eat as a family normally, but it was much more intimate because we were, working in this laundry room and there was no dishwasher. So the boys, they were always like in charge of doing the dishes, and, they'd argue and fight, but it was this time that they were spending together. And it was just really like taking things back a notch. As much as it was a lot of work and we couldn't wait to get out of the basement, part of it was a little bit sad when it was over, because it was just like a different family dynamic, and things were slower, and it was in the winter. And then when we did move into the kitchen, I had all this cupboard space that I never had before. And I had like dream cupboard space and dream storage. And I thought to myself, I have gotten by for 5 months with only these necessities while we lived in the basement, and we made do. And honestly, all the stuff that we had boxed up and put in our garage, there was like two things that I remember missing. One was a banana loaf pan, and I can't remember what the other thing was, but I remember thinking, I didn't miss any of that stuff. So why would I go and start putting all of that stuff into this newly renovated kitchen? So I only moved in what I actually had used during that 5 months. And I even got rid of some stuff. Like, there was some stuff as I was moving, I thought I never used this in 5 months. So I didn't even bring it all in. So my kitchen became, of course, it was like a newly renovated space. So of course it would be easy to say you would want to be in that space, but it honestly became this haven. It was organized, and it was so quick to tidy up all the time. And it just felt so refreshing to be in there. And then I'd walk into the other parts of my house and think, oh my God, it's like the mess is still here. But I was kind of able to hide in my kitchen. And then as time went on, I thought, well, why can't the rest of my house be like this? Why can't I go through the same process as I did with the kitchen and get rid of the things that really don't belong or aren't used, and make the rest of my house feel like this? So that's what I did. And it took a bit of time, although I was like on a mission, because once I started feeling like the more I would get rid of stuff, the lighter I would feel. And just I could almost feel like the weight lifting, because the workload became lesser. I mean, you still had a house to clean, and I'm not saying my house is perfect by any means, but the whole process of getting ready to clean was easy. And each day, like a simple reset to get your house back to being like organized, was like, just, it's so easy to do now. So it really did change my life, and it changed my whole approach to how I looked at everything from there on. I started, once I got my house kind of in order and this physical declutter, I started looking at my schedule and looking at things that were taking up my time that I really didn't care about and that were just making me feel burdened. And I started looking at social media and how much time I was spending on social media, just scrolling and looking at other people, when I could have been using my time to create what I wanted in life rather than looking at other people and wishing. And so it just became a base point for me to create intention. And I kind of started off just deciding, how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in this life? And then using the same principles as I used for decluttering my house, I was able to apply to the rest of my life, and just kind of like an onion, peel away layers until I just found myself in this, really enlightened place where I just am very grateful. Like, I'm truly grateful. I don't want things like I used to want. Not to say that I don't set goals. I'm still very driven by goal setting, and I still always like to think about the future and what I can have. but I'm so much more content with the here and now and appreciating what I have versus always wanting. And it really is this process of decluttering that helped me to get to that point. And I think that's the first step for anybody who is, if you're feeling any of these feelings that I was feeling, is really just starting at that point and asking yourself, how do you want to feel? And thinking about what you have in your life, whether it's physical or mental, that is just, causing you this anxiety and this overwhelm, and starting to look at things that you can start to let go of. And so for me, that was my family. When I thought about what do I want and what's most important to me, it really was my family. And when I thought about, okay, that's what I want, but is what I say I want and what I say is important to me really in alignment with my actions and what I'm doing? And it really wasn't. Like, I couldn't wait to get my kids. It was like I couldn't wait to get my kids in bed so I could just have like that little bit of downtime watching Netflix and, chilling. And don't get me wrong, like, I still love Netflix and will watch some Netflix every night, but the time with my kids before that now is much more intentional. And I make a point, like, the workload from the house not being so crazy and not feeling so heavy gives me more time to spend with them. My only regret, I would say, is like motherhood goes so fast. 1 minute you're holding like this tiny little baby in your hand, and next thing you know, they're in high school, and the high school years fly by. My oldest is 15, so he's just finishing up grade 10. And my only regret is that I honestly didn't like start this lifestyle sooner, because I feel like the attention and the intention that my younger two kids get when they still actually want it, because that's the problem once they're teenagers, they don't necessarily want your attention as much anymore. But my time with my younger two is just, it's building such a better relationship, and there's so much more communication and like honest, love. Not that I don't love my older son, but it was just so busy and everything. Life was just such a hindrance then. But he gets the best of me now. So as much as it could have started sooner, it's never too late. And it's still, I'm grateful that I, made these changes before he moved out, because then it would be even harder to, get that time. And I think it's also important to recognize the difference between organizing your home and decluttering your home, because don't get me wrong, I love a good organization system. And once you get your house decluttered, there's definitely merit to having things that you have kept well organized. But organization, if you haven't gone through the decluttering process, is really just organizing the clutter so that it doesn't seem messy. But if it's stuff that you don't use and it's stuff that you've tucked away, it has a way of finding its way back out again. And if you don't create systems for paperwork and systems for the inflow of things coming in, before you know it, you've just organized clutter that comes back out again. So decluttering is, and I said this when I spoke on Megan's podcast, is ruthlessly editing your life. And so when you think about that, it's looking at every item in your house and deciding 5 things. And this is an action step that you can write down if you want to start this process. So these are 5 questions that you should ask yourself to decide if you should let something go. So first of all, do I use this? So obviously there's going to be the decor things like that you don't actually use, but when you think about the practical things in your house, think about, do you use them, or do you have similar items that you choose to use more often but really serve the same purpose? And you'll find a lot of these things in your kitchen. And one that I'm struggling with right now, because this is a constant ongoing process too. It doesn't mean when you do it and you're done, because sometimes the first time you do it, you're not ready to make a decision on something. But I use my spiralizer all the time. And I always had a Paderno handheld spiralizer. But for Christmas, my husband got me a KitchenAid mixer, which I never bake. So I actually had debated taking it back, but it's really pretty turquoise blue and looks really nice sitting on my kitchen counter. So I kept it. But I thought, if I'm going to keep this, I need to make sure I'm using it. So I got the spiralizer attachment for it. So I really now should get rid of my handheld spiralizer. But I think I'm still like convincing myself that I love I do. I use my mixer attachment all the time. So that's something that's an example. Like, I don't need the handheld one anymore. It can go. Little things like spatulas or, mixing spoons. Like, if you've got 10 of them in your drawer, they're just taking up space, and two suffice. You don't need all the other ones. So when you think about those things, and you think about your utensils in your drawers and things like that, there's so many things. Like, I sold Pampered Chef years ago, and I got the starter kit with all of the things, and there's like the lemon juicer thing, and there's the zester, and there's all these things that I got, and I never use them. I use lots of my Pampered Chef stuff, but lots of the small things I never use. But yet you feel like they're good. You feel like they're things that, well, I might use this someday. And so you don't want to get rid of them. But in reality, if you're not using it, or if there's something else you use more often, it's just taking up space in your house. The next question to ask yourself is, if I were shopping right now, would I buy this? So this is like clothes. If you're looking at your clothes, if you're looking at some of your decor pieces, don't get me wrong. Like, minimalism is not about living in a stark white house. Like, I love decor. I love to decorate, but you don't need to keep every decor piece you've ever bought, every knickknack you've bought your whole life. Styles change and things change. And so if it's not something you would buy right now, then it's time to let it go. These are also things you can ask yourself when you finish the process and you're when you go shopping, because you might look at a core item and think, oh, that's so trendy, I love it. But also asking yourself, 6 months from now, am I going to love that? And so it kind of helps you moving forward as well, with not purchasing things that you don't really need to. I kind of mentioned it earlier. The next question is, am I saving this just in case? And that one is, like, for sure, I was guilty of that one. And like, I had clothes that were so old and I would never wear, but I always thought, just in case I go to a Halloween party, I might need that. Well, realistically, I don't go to Halloween parties anymore. So I was saving these things just in case of fantasy events that were probably never going to happen. Does this fit me or my living space? So, like, you might have furniture pieces that are just taking up overwhelming amounts of room in your house and you don't even need them. And same with clothes. If you have clothes that don't fit and you're waiting to see if they might fit someday, or you've lost weight and they're huge, but you're actually fearing you might gain the weight back, because it kind of goes both ways, let them go. Just let them go and move on. And then, of course, if you put it in a box and you stored it for 4 months, would you miss it? If you ever have a chance that you're moving, I think that decluttering is like ideal. That's an ideal time to declutter, because you can be very conscientious of what you're bringing back in as you're moving your moving boxes. So those are kind of five questions that you can ask yourself when you're getting started. And a lot of times people will ask me, okay, I'm totally overwhelmed. Where do I start? And I said that I started in my kitchen, but that was kind of at a default. Normally, if I'm telling people where to start, like if they're asking me, I recommend starting in your bathrooms, because your bathrooms tend to have the least amount of sentimental items. And I have a course called Your Lighter Life Blueprint, and it takes you through step by step, room by room, and through the whole process of decluttering. But I always say start with your bathroom, because you got to work your way up to the sentimental areas. And your bathroom really shouldn't have sentimental items in it for the most part. And so it's a great place to start. And so what I always recommend is this is an action step. So if you are going to do this, you would set a time and start in your bathroom, clear a space on the floor and make 3 piles. And your 3 piles are going to be keep, donate, and trash. And in your bathroom, you're probably not going to have things that you're going to be donating. But if you have, like, say you have subscription boxes to Fit Fab Fun or some of those subscription boxes, you may have brand new makeup that you've never touched or opened that you know you would never wear, but you feel guilty because you bought the subscription box and so they're still there. Those are things you actually can donate to like women's shelters and things like that. And but for the most part, you're not going to have a lot. Another thing that you can donate is if you're going through your towels and things like that in your bathroom. I mean, we don't need 20 towels. It just means more laundry. If you have like one or maybe two towels for each family member, then the rest, and then you'll have laundry to do stuff like giant laundry baskets of towels because you waited until every towel in the house was dirty. Um, So towels and washcloths, or maybe have washcloths and towels that have seen better days. Like we've been married for 19 years this summer, and like we still had washcloths from when we got married when I went through this process. And like they were nice, but they were still usable, and so I had them amongst umpteen other ones. So narrow it down to like a manageable amount that looks nice and neat, and then get rid of the rest. And those are something that you can actually donate to animal shelters. I actually had someone message me when I was like going through this process and I was posting on my Instagram stories, and I don't even know why I asked. I guess I felt bad. I felt bad about getting rid of towels that were useful. And someone actually messaged me and said, give them to animal shelters. They're always looking for, and her mom actually was from my town, and she said, my mom will leave them, pick them up. And so it worked out perfect. But you're going to make these 3 piles, and there's not going to be a maybe pile. You have to make a decision because your bathroom, you can make decisions. So it's either, do I use this? And when was the last time I used it? So if it's something that you use regularly, and what I like to suggest starting with is imagine that you're packing an overnight bag and you're going away for the weekend. What are the things that you would actually pack in your overnight bag? And you're going to go out on a date. So you're going to not just take deodorant, you're going to take some makeup and things like that as well, because you're going to do something while you go out. Think about what you are going to put in your overnight bag. Those are probably really the only things that you use on a regular basis. There might be the odd other thing as well, but for the most part, be very, ruthless when you're deciding, do I use this? When's the last time I used this? The next thing look at is, how old is this? Has it expired? Would I put this on my face or body? And if you'd say, yes, I'd put it on my face or body, ask, would I put this on my child's face or body? Because we might be more ruthless if we actually ask about that. So honestly, like look at expiry dates. There's probably so much stuff in there that, it's expired. It's not even healthy to put on your face anymore or your body. There's probably, I know I had lots of shampoo that there was like some left because it was a shampoo that I bought and then I hated it. It made my hair feel like straw. And I used as much as I could, and then I just couldn't bear to use it anymore, and I stuck it under the bathroom counter. Well, if I'm not going to use it then I'm not going to use it now. And you might think, oh, but it might be back up someday. Well, we live in a pretty convenient world that we can go get more shampoo pretty quickly. So think about that. Do you use it? How old is this? Has it expired? Is it stained, damaged, or torn? So that's like the towels and things like that. And then also look in your bathroom and go, okay, when you start a space, you want to finish that space before you move on to another room. And it doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. It may take, maybe you only have an hour a week. And so it takes you like, I'm going to do this drawer or this cupboard this week, and then next week I'll do another one. But finish that space before you move on to the next one. And so look at your room. And if you have paperwork or like office supplies in your bathroom, you might not be making the final decision on, which I don't know why you would, but maybe you like to have some private time in your bathroom. But say you have something that belongs in another room of your house and it's in your bathroom, you might not be ready to make that decision on that item yet because it's not a bathroom item, but get it out of your bathroom and move it to the area of your house where it belongs, so that when you get to that area, you can deal with it then. So your bathroom is really, and if you have a few bathrooms, then you might tackle them like one at a time, obviously. But those are your easy wins. And if you can get an easy win under your belt, then it really makes you start to feel the effect of it. And it makes you feel like how good it feels to have let go of this stuff. And it also makes you realize after a couple weeks, I didn't miss that shampoo. And so maybe I won't miss that whatever sentimental thing that you have in another area of your house. So that's where I really do recommend starting. And there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was. So, oh, that's what I was going to say. Another thing that I'm famous for is, or my kids actually are the ones more famous, when you go to the hotel room and then you have to bring home all the little bottles of shampoo and they end up in a basket or whatever, and you're just collecting all these little soaps and shampoos. So I did find that I started using them. I would move them to our camping trailer, so they worked really great for that. So we would always have little samples in there, or you could create like a little guest basket for guests and use them. But if you're not, like, if they're not serving a purpose and they're just taking up space, let them go, and next time just leave them in the hotel room. I think that's about all I had to say about bathrooms, really, though. But yeah, so that's really the place I suggest starting. And then people always say, I have no time. Like, I have no time to do this. Like, it's overwhelming, the thought of even starting. And it is a lot of work. I'm not going to say it's not a lot of work. You just have to remember that in the end, it's worth it. And each area that you go through is going to lessen the workload and make things easier after the fact. And oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, so it's, oh, setting a time. It's just like working out, or meal planning or meal prepping. Yes, it's overwhelming and it's hard to imagine, but you have to schedule the time to do it. And if you schedule the time to do it, once you do it, it feels so much better. So it's really just like everything else that you want to be a priority in your life. And yeah, so that's really, I had some tips that I was going to end with. Just going to find them here. So these are just kind of some tips, which some of them I kind of covered already, that I was going to end with. So just some thoughts to guide you, and then I can answer any questions if anybody has any. But like I said, start one room or area to start, and then don't just stand in that room and set your intention for the space. So just decide, like, okay, this is my bathroom. I'm saying bathroom because that's where we started. My intention for this space is to have a place where I can go and have some self-care and not feel clutter and just get ready for my day, and set that intention. And then once you know what the purpose of that space is, then that's going to help you to eliminate everything that doesn't belong in that space. Be a ruthless editor of what is allowed to stay in your home. So I said that before. This is a process of ruthlessly editing your life. And so, like, make those hard decisions and then be confident in those decisions. And just remember, what takes up your space takes up your time. So if you're keeping something and it's not something that is important to you, and you just for some reason won't let it go, it's just taking up your time because it's something you have to, deal with all the time. Set a timer and just start. So pick a time, like say you have 30 minutes, just set a timer and just do it. Starting is the hardest part, but once you get those little pockets and you get started, then you will keep on going with it. And done is better than perfect. So this is what I was saying before, is that you might not get things perfect the first time. I still have areas that I go back and think I'm ready now to let go of more stuff in this room. And it's a process that you can continually do. So the first time, just go through it and do a once over and get it done. Done is better than perfect. And start small and finish before moving on to another area, which I mentioned before. So finish that space, and because otherwise you're just going to end up with all these piles all through your house, and it's going to end up more overwhelming. And if you come across, oh, that's what I was saying too. If you come across an item that you're not ready to let go of yet, move it to the area of the house where it at least belongs, or just put it in a box for now and store it somewhere. And then you'll probably forget about it. So when you come back to the box, then it'll be easier to make a decision. And just remember, like I said, it's an ongoing process. Um, you may feel, you may finish a room and feel really good about it. And then, that's going to give you that motivation to continue on and carry on to the rest of your house. So that is really pretty much the tips and tricks I have for you, and kind of my thoughts on decluttering and minimalism. And I mean, I could go on and on. There's so much, but I'll stop there.
Oh my, I get so fired up about this stuff because like I love purging and organizing. Because I love the way it just makes you feel like
Yeah.
energetically it is like a cleanse, and it just feels so good, and there's so much resistance to starting, but like it feels amazing. And for anyone who's in my Syncing with the Flow group, when you're in your luteal phase, that's really when like your brain is wired to naturally want to organize your home. And so like literally right now I am in that phase of like hunkering down, tying up all loose ends, organizing things. So this call is like super perfect for me right now. Not to mention that we are going to be renovating our kitchen. So we have like just a couple weeks basically to like move everything out of like our main room and our kitchen and set up a kitchen downstairs. And they're starting to do like renovations like ASAP. So I've been going through some cupboards and stuff, and like all I can think about is our conversation that we had on the podcast.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, this is the perfect time
It
to
is. Yeah.
just get rid of the things that I don't need, because I'm not going to move this stuff into a brand new kitchen. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. And it's hard. Like I also have a ton of Pampered Chef stuff because I love Pampered Chef. I know there's a few lovers of Pampered Chefs on this call. And I have things like, I have this like beautiful pastry blade that has like all these different adapters on it to like make like perfectly cut pastry. I actually have never used it.
Yeah.
And I make pastry like a few times a year, but I always just do like easy, like roll it out, put it on top instead of like laying out like the lattice crust. Like I never do that. So I'm like, why am I'm holding on to it because I know it's like a good
I
product
know.
and it was expensive and
Yeah.
it's like such good quality, but it's like, but am
Why?
I really gonna use this? Like, so it's hard. Like,
Yeah. And the other thing that like I found is that I would come across things, especially sentimental items, and it kind of made me start to look at things in a different way. Like I had this tray that I used this tray for this purpose before I decluttered. But this is an example. I had this beautiful sterling silver tray that was given to us for a wedding gift, and it was actually a nice modern pattern to it. And I've always used it as a base for our toaster. So now our toaster sits in a cupboard that we don't have to take it in and out of. But before we used to take it in and out of a bottom cupboard, and the toaster, every time you would set it down, always there was crumbs in the bottom of the cupboard. So I put this tray, this beautiful tray, in the bottom so that every time the toaster would go in and out, the crumbs would fall on the tray. So then I would just have to pick up the tray to dump the crumbs every once in a while. But now, like our we have bifolding doors, so our toaster and my blender always stay in a cupboard. But I still always keep this tray there, so it's beautiful, and now I actually see it every day. So then, when I decluttered, I started thinking about other things that I could, instead of just storing my grandmother's cream and sugar set away in the back of a cupboard because it was good, why not use it? Why not make that my cream and sugar and get rid of the cheap dollar store one that was, being used? And you just start to look at things differently. Like if you really love it or you really do want to keep it, is there a purpose? Like, can you find a purpose for it?
mhm.
And it's just the whole process that for me of like what decluttering and minimalism has just gave me that base to always come back to how I want to feel and how I want to show up in this world. And life is busy, and I'm not saying because I decluttered my life is slow and perfect, but I'm just saying when things start to get anxious and I start to feel it bubbling up again, I can always come back to that intention of, okay, where do I want, my intentions to go? What do I really, what, like, where are these feelings coming from? Why am I starting to feel this anxiety again? and you kind of have that base point now where you can let it let it go and kind of, you know, bring it back to where you want it to be. So that's why I think it was so life changing for me, is because it started off as just, let's get this house in order. If I can just get my house in order, then I'll have more time for these other things I want to do. And in the end, it just completely changed everything, my approach to everything. So
Yeah, and really, like, if you can get your environment organized and like decluttered and like energetically have space in it, it's like every other area of your life will start to feel that way too. Like you our environment, our physical environment is like so powerful, I think. And
your home should be your safe haven. Like, it should be your place that you can come to. And yeah, a house is work. None of us are getting out of, you know, the tidying and the cleaning. But when you can make it as simple as possible and just make it that it's easy to have these simple resets and things that you do, it just makes your home such a much more positive space to be in. And for your kids too. Like, it's hard. I go through this in my course, like how to teach kids about minimalism, and it's different because you can't just expect them to get rid of all of their things, but you can go through the same thought process with them and talk to them about the things they have, and talk to them about donating things and how you're helping other kids who don't have things. And then moving forward, you can help them to make better decisions and make them appreciate money more even. And a perfect example was my son, who he turned 11 in December. And of course, he still wanted to have a birthday party. And the thought of all those little $20 gifts coming in that, you know, they're just not gonna like, they're not something he's gonna play with for a long time. And I just couldn't do it. His birthday is December 21st, so we already had Christmas. So for his birthday, when I told him, you can still have a birthday party, but we're gonna send the card and say no gifts this year. But we can say, if you feel like you would like to give something, Brody's saving for a bike, which he was, and he would appreciate $5 in a card. And most of his friends actually gave him like $15 or $20. And he did the same thing at Christmas to the grandparents. He said, I'm saving for a bike. I'd appreciate money towards my bike if you'd like. He ended up, like, his birthday, I think he got he had like $150 by the time Christmas and his birthday were done. And then this spring we went and he picked out a bike, and like, it's just, it feels so much better than, like, I've had Christmases in the past where I literally feel sick to my stomach after the presents are all opened. And it's not so much what I buy, but then we go to my parents and then my in-laws, and then you come home and you're just like, all this stuff. So it just helps you approach life differently. You just start thinking about experiences being more important. And even gift giving for my nieces and nephews now, I try and think of things that I can give them or take them. Like last year, my two nephews, I took them to the Toronto Zoo, and just trying to think of different things, like experiences over physical items.
yeah.
It just changes a lot of your
Yeah,
mind.
I think like that whole topic in itself is like such a huge one, and
Mhm.
we, my husband and I, are both very much like that. And I hate the thought of birthday parties and Christmases because it's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we've just made it very clear and like set boundaries with our in-laws, and
Mhm.
just like this, like we just won't have this happen. Like, we are very minimal as far as the kids' toys and stuff. And because I'm that way, well, not all of them, but most of my kids are very much like that. And like my oldest, she is like, what can we get rid of around here? Like she is like so excited about this renovation because she's like, and now that we're gonna move downstairs, we can get rid of all the stuff that's down there now. I'm like, hey, easy girl. Like, we hardly have anything down there anyways.
Yeah,
So
I
she's
mean,
just like,
my
what
oldest,
to get rid of.
when he was one, he got his first Thomas the Train. And that was it. That's the only thing he ever wanted, was Thomas the Train. And I didn't mind because I felt like it was quality, and my husband built him a table. And so when he was 7, my husband said no more. Like, every birthday, every Christmas, that's all he ever wanted. And he's 15 and it's stored in the attic. And he's like, don't you ever get rid of my Thomas. But he went from Thomas to then Lego. And those were really the only two things he ever had. And it's kind of cool because when I went to, I've never had to really declutter his toys per se because he didn't really have toys. Because they were, you know, and I even think, oh, the Thomas set's great to have if it's still at our house when we have grandkids someday. And then my middle, he's like, he likes things but not so much, but my daughter's the problem. Like, she is into, like, she watches the stupid YouTube videos and stuff where they're unwrapping stuff, so she is the one that is the one I work on the most to try and, like,
Oh
you know,
yeah, I've
her
got one of those.
thinking about whether she's actually going to use her new toy for long, because
Yeah.
she's the one that it looks good and then she gets it and she's actually disappointed sometimes that it's not as fun or cool as she thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I totally get it.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions, you can just go ahead and put them in the chat box for Carla. But I know that you have the Lighter Life Blueprint course that you run, and of course you've got your book. What else do you have that's going on, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I think I was just reading the comment there. So yeah, my book, it's a co-author project with 19 other women, and it's my journey to self-love, which coincidentally, my decluttering journey was a huge part of my journey to self-love, because I discovered so much about myself through this whole process. And where I thought I was, like, you know, needing to change physically or this or that, it really wasn't. It was my internal stuff that needed to change to really finally get to that point of really loving myself. So my book is actually about, partially about decluttering, my chapter that I wrote. And then I'm on Instagram, my Lighter Life. And yes, my decluttering course, your Lighter Life Blueprint, is linked in my on my off my Instagram page as well. And I actually was going to give Megan a coupon code for you guys if anyone was interested for 40% off the course. So I'll get that to Megan as well.
That's
Um,
amazing.
it's basically, it comes, you get a workbook that kind of goes through a lot of what we talked about tonight, and a lot of the work about setting your intentions and actually setting up a schedule for yourself to help you follow through. And then it's videos that I would say, like, I did it my first time when I first launched it, I did it in a Facebook group and I set it up as a 4-week course. So I would say to give yourself 4 weeks to get through the videos. And what I always recommend is actually listening to the videos while you're decluttering, because I feel like it pumps you up to do it. And then you're not wasting time listening to the videos. You kind of can do them in unison. So yeah, it's about a 4-week course, and they're all video prompted to each room. It gives you tips for each room as you go through it, how to deal with sentimental items, how to talk to your family members about decluttering and getting your kids on board. So it's pretty intensive in going through the whole decluttering process. And yeah, so that's where I am. I'm on Facebook, but I'm really bad at keeping up my Facebook. So Instagram's my home now.
That sounds amazing, and I love the idea of like listening.
Yeah.
I love the idea of listening to like the videos as you're going through them, and it's like also multitasking, right? Because we're busy. Do we have time to like sit and watch a video and then implement? It's like, yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but even like listening to this stuff, I'm like, oh, I just want to like go and like tackle something right now. Like it just, I don't know, it just does something to me, and maybe it's everyone. Hopefully it's everyone, but thank you so much, Carla. And I will get that the discount code from you, and I'll post that in our wellness club and in my other communities. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to hop on. Okay. Good night, guys.
Good night.